welcome to the fourth branch program. Glad you can make it. I am MD. This program is dedicated exclusively for those with common sense, a spirit of patriotism, and a determination for a more perfect union. Stay tuned as we begin the discussion of a very important, interesting, and enlightening topic. Hope to hear from you soon. Happy listening. Hello everyone, I am MD and this is the fourth branch program. Welcome. If you're here for the first time, the fourth branch program is a program which is catered almost exclusively to individuals with common sense. Individuals who are patriots. This is not a venue where you're looking for information to make you feel good. There are plenty of such venues out there. What we discuss here are information that help the country move forward, that help us to achieve a more perfect union. As such, we address social political issues. Yes, it will sound biased at times because first, we are human, and second, you may not necessarily like or agree with. This is not a program where we're trying to force our views on yours, but rather to discuss in a logical manner issues which impact a group, a community, or even the whole country. But whichever side you're on, it is important that logic prevail. As such, today we will talk about a few topics. Now, we usually try to stay away from what we call current events. Now, we do talk about current events at times, but it's usually in relation to something that we either discussing, something that someone asks us to talk about, and we use the current events as a way to either make a point or to shed some light about a particular topic. Today, we are going to continue the conversation we started for quite a few days. We've been discussing for quite a few days now, which is the number one, the race relation, which is a kind of a staple item in our conversation here. It is a topic we have been discussing for the past couple of months, and we will continue to discuss as well. And when we get to that topic today, we will pick up where we left off. A few other topics that we will discuss is, of course, let's call it the wealth redistribution. We have been discussing it in this particular topic in terms of tax cut versus entitlement cut. But today we'll also take a look at a very important topic that's pretty much in the news. The past few hours, I've watched a lot of interviews, listened to a lot of programs, and one of the most talked about topic is overreach. Mostly on the Republican side, where it is believed that the fact that the chair, Nadler, I'm no longer sure, sent 81 requests rather out there asking for people who are somewhat involved, past and present, in with Trump to respond, to send documents and so on and so forth. And you may already know that Mr. Nader proposed that he will be sending subpoena to those who do not voluntarily respond to his request. So we think because of this whole conversation back and forth between Democrats and Republicans, it is important to address another aspect of this conversation. Again, we not in a business of trying to support Democrat or Republican, but to discuss an idea, a topic, in a way that it may support your belief, it may strengthen your belief, or you may simply shrug it as, well, gibberish because it doesn't support your belief. Whichever side you fall, whichever side you stand, it really doesn't matter much except to look at the conversation not in order to find something to support your argument, because this is really not the point of the fourth branch. It's not to support your argument, it's not to reject somebody else's argument, but rather to present an argument. Again, as I mentioned, you may find it biased because usually that's pretty much what most individuals seem to think, that whenever a conversation doesn't go his or her way, it's biased. But facts cannot be biased, right? Because this is a pen. Now, no matter how biased someone is, there is no way to change that. This is a fact. So you may not agree it's a pen. You can call it whatever else you want to call it. But because it is a fact, then your stand vis-a-vis facts may simply help you understand that you are indeed biased, not the other way around. So that's what we try to do with whatever topic we discuss here. Present some facts in order for you to make up your own mind. And sometimes it's not fact, it's opinion, but it's opinion based on logic, and which means, again, that it always boils down to what you feel, what you want to get out of whatever discussion we are having. I'll be right back, and we will discuss. The first item we will discuss is obviously the O item. No, it's not orgasm, it's overreach. We'll be right back. I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program, inviting you to join me every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. and every weekday at 2 p.m. for discussions of social political issues and to dissect the meaning and the importance of current events, as well as to understand topics of legislations. The Fourth Branch Project is not associated with any political party, and we at the Fourth Branch do not have any political agenda or aspiration. Our ultimate objective is to work towards achieving a more perfect union by removing ignorance, the biggest obstacle to our democracy. Stay with us. We will be right back. If you join us for the first time, welcome. The program is been in existence for the past 6-7 months, and what that means is we have a number of video which are archived on the People Branch YouTube channel. If you head to the People Branch YouTube channel, you will find that we have at least 400-500 video that is currently there in that channel that address various issues, various topics. And one of such topic is, of course, as I mentioned, we discuss race relation, we discuss the role of EPA, we even have discussion about scientific medical topic. So you definitely will be able to get something that will be of interest to you. As you can see on the screen, there are those steps on the screen help you get to the People Branch channel in order to browse. Now, while you're there, I strongly suggest that you subscribe to the People Branch channel. So please do not leave the People Branch channel without subscribing. And also, it would be good if you follow me on Twitter and on Facebook. What that really does for both parties, myself and yourself, is it allows us to send you invite, to send you updates, and also to keep you abreast of other activities that we at the Fourth Branch we're having, places we go to, gathering that we have, and people will be talking to in a town hall style, etc. So this way you will informed as to what's going on at People Branch channel. Now, we also would invite you to visit the peoplebranch.org, that a website in which that we publish a number of articles that really span from social, entertainment, and yes, even medical aspect. We do have that on our peoplebranch.org. So definitely stay connected, subscribe to that website in order for you to know what we are doing, because it is that important. This aspect of what we're trying to do is really to perfect the union. One individual cannot possibly achieve that. So your participation is actually extremely important. So please stay with us. We'll be right back to continue the conversation about overreach with the Democrat Party. Now, is it overreach on the part of the Democrats? The name of the gentleman is the House Judiciary Chairman, is Gerald Nadler. That's the chairman, the Democrat chairman for the House Judiciary Committee. It used to be, I believe, Chuck Grassley. Actually, I said that wrong because I think Chuck Grassley belonged to the Senate. But in any case, Chairman Gerald Nadler sent 81, asked 81 people, that's both people and organization, to hand over document that's related to the various investigation, various aspects of Trump, whether it's his private life, it's something that has to do with the campaign, something that has to do with his current administration. So Gerald Nadler sent 81 people a request to send document. Now, it is in anticipation that the Judiciary Committee will be reviewing those documents, and later on those people will be calling to testify in front of Congress. Now, a lot of people are screaming, especially on the Republican side, they are screaming this is overreach, meaning that Democrats are playing their hands by sending 81 requests. Now, there are two aspects to this that I want to discuss with you. Now, the first aspect is, of course, the fact that for 2 years, for 2 full years, that Republicans were in control of Congress, there was not a single such thing done. There was no request done. Nobody cared about what the what the executive branch was doing. In other words, if you were to take 2 years worth of investigation, let's say that the Republican did do what the legislative branch is supposed to do, which is to put a check on the executive branch to exercise its oversight task, it is very, very evident that Democrat would not have to deal with everything. So that we can agree on that for 2 years, nothing, absolutely nothing was done. So in other words, if you want to be fair, had the Republican done what the legislative branch is supposed to do, then a lot of those people that now are being called would have never been called, because they would have already been vetted, they would have already gone in front of Congress, they would have already said whatever that they have in possession in terms of information. Now, that you have to agree with, because no matter which side you stand, that you have to agree that partly the Republicans in Congress are responsible for that many requests for information to be sent by the Democrat Congress. That you can scream about that, but you have to take a step back and say, well, the Republicans didn't do their job, because the Congress is not there to shield the executive branch. That's not the purpose of the Congress. You may recall, for instance, that the framers of the Constitution did set up our government this way, with 3 equal branches of the government, meaning that the legislative branch does not answer to the executive branch. The legislative branch is fully powered to do what it's supposed to do in order to keep the integrity of the country intact, right? Now, because for 2 years the Republicans didn't do their job, then now everything that they were supposed to do falls on the Democrats to do. So this is not something that we can debate on. This is not something you can throw tantrums on at and say that, well, it's overreach. But if the Republicans did the job, then maybe Democrat wouldn't have to send that many requests out. That's number one. Now, the number two, let me say also that there are a number of people who already answered to the request, but there are also quite a few people, usually those who are very close to Trump, like Eric Trump, Sean Spicer. You can rest assured that those people are going to balk at the idea that they're not going to answer to those. But regardless of how they feel, rest also assured that because this is the job of the legislative branch, that Gerald Nadler is going to send subpoena out. No matter how much they resist, then they're going to have to comply at some point. So I never understand that aspect, why people do those kind of things, because you may buy a couple of days, you may buy some time, but eventually you're going to have to come to testify. Now, there is also the third aspect of this whole debacle. The third aspect is this: the president of the United States is not above the law, right? We've all been putting that out there and saying all kind of thing about nobody is above the law. But if people, because in order for that statement to have any value, right, everyone in the country has to play his or her part, right? Especially those individuals who were public servants, like people like Sean Spicer, right? Now, Eric Trump He's a civilian. He's never worked for the government. He may decide to play hardball. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to succeed, but he may decide to. But somebody like Sean Spicer, who worked in the Trump administration, who was a public servant, actually, we, the taxpayer, we paid Sean Spicer. So Sean Spicer has no business trying to figure a way out of that predicament, because Sean Spicer was a public servant and he worked for the Trump administration, and as a public servant, as someone the taxpayer paid, then it is his duty to go in front of Congress and say whatever answer a question, whatever question that they have for him to answer question. But the most important aspect of this conversation is the fact that I ask everybody this question. America is indeed in crisis, right? Now, I don't know whether you want to agree with that or not, but we are at an impasse in the United States that unless you are blind, it is very obvious that we have a problem in the country, that the executive branch is, we talk about corruption before, we talk about all kind of problem before, but we never have, the country has never had this type of problem we currently are dealing with in the Oval Office. Because we're not just talking about a political problem, we're talking about problem that even get legislators, get people who are historians, people who have been studying, people who have been analyzing the predicament that the country is in, that the United States of America is in a unique situation where we never at any point stop to address those type of problems, because we never anticipated, we never envisioned that the country will ever have to cope with a predicament where the individual who sit in the Oval Office is, we're not talking about incompetence here, because yes, everybody can agree Donald Trump is very incompetent. He doesn't know what he's doing. Everybody takes advantage of him, both here in the United States and abroad. They know exactly what to do as long as they cater to his ego, as long as they pour money into his business. Then Donald Trump is bought, and he used the country as his leverage in order to get those people abroad whatever that they're looking for. Now, you may. That's why George Washington. And it's a statement that he said that it stays in the forefront of my mind. That he said to beware of pretended patriotism, because there are a lot of people, especially if you recall that Republican in general, you like to identify themselves, to pose themselves as the defenders of the nation, the people, the party that's for the rule of law, the party that's fiscally conservative, and so on and so forth. And yet today we're looking at a situation, a predicament, that we asking ourselves, where are those people? Where are those values that Republicans always talked about? We have in the Oval Office, and no one can argue that. Some people that I have conversation with say, actually, let me use someone that you know, not some people, because if I say some people, then whoever those some people is. Let's use someone you know, you're familiar with, Jim Jordan. Jim Jordan is a congressman, and he happened to sit in the House Oversight Committee, right? In the Oversight Committee. Now, he is someone who is a chairman, who represents people in his state. And then he is that individual who made a statement. And the statement goes that there is no collusion whatsoever between Donald Trump and Russia. Now, so far, the only thing we know for certain is everybody who served both past and present, in the Trump administration has been somewhat linked to problem with Russia, right? Now, you can say all you want, or you can come up with all kind of spin and trying to explain things away, but there has never been anyone in the Oval Office that had so many people convicted of a crime that looks like he is the top man that all of them reported to. Now, yes, so far we have not, because the Mueller's report has not been released. So for Jim Jordan to say to the American people there is no collusion, when everything that we have so far, everything, no matter where you look, everything points to the fact that Donald Trump is involved. Yes, we can grant the fact that the report hasn't been released and we have no way of knowing what Robert Mueller has. But the reason that we, human, are called superior animal is because we are doted of a brain, and that brain gives us the ability to deduce, the ability to look at two items and be able to draw a conclusion. If we cannot do that, then we no longer belong to the human race. We might as well call ourselves whatever else you would feel more comfortable calling yourself, because you take a dog, you take a cow, you take whatever other animal species, they don't have this ability, this unique ability that we humans have, the ability to be able to draw conclusion. Because if that's out of the, if you don't have that ability, then you cannot be called a superior animal. Your ability is as low as or comparable to any other animal species, but not the human species. Because again, that's the only thing that distinguishes us, the human species, from all other animal species. It's the ability to be able to do those type of logic of rationale, that we can say 2 + 2 are 4. We can get to that conclusion because we have this ability to reason, to use logic. For instance, is a better one for you. If we say that all men are mortal, therefore you, whoever you is, you are mortal. So it is a logical conclusion, and the only reason we can get to that point is because as human being, we able to draw conclusion, we able to get to that kind of logic. If you cannot do that, no matter how smart you think you are as smart as any inferior animal species, because failure to be able to drive to that conclusion put you exactly in that category. So having said that, we can come back to talk about the Donald Trump saga. Yes, there is no report, no Mueller report out just yet, and which means that that final, that absolute answer we don't have. But as member of the human species, we are able to draw the conclusion that everyone who worked in the Trump administration, who worked around Trump, everyone is involved in doing something illegal, something corrupt. Now, how possible is it? This is where the human mind comes to help you. How possible is it that you have this person where everyone around him, everyone who reports to him, everyone who connects with him, everyone who has some relation with him has a problem. criminal or otherwise. How possible you think it is that this individual is not in any of those things? Any idea? Well, logic tells me that it's near impossible. It's not within the realm of possibility at all that would be the case, because this individual we're talking about, Donald Trump, is the one that getting all those people to do things for him. Even the Bible tells you that you take the head and the body will disperse, which means the head is where most of everything. And if you see that at war, they take the person that's in charge. They always get to the head first, because the head is the one that drives whatever you see. If you don't have that logic, you cannot see that, then yes, we cannot have a conversation about the fact that this current administration we have in the Oval Office today is corrupt. But what makes it even worse than any previous administration we had is because the only thing that matters to that individual is that individual. That's really what makes anything that happened before different from what's happening now. Now, overreach, let me ask you the question. It is a very important question. Does the Constitution of the United States matter to you? Does it? Would you jeopardize our democracy for the sake of one individual? That's not a question I can answer for you, because it is an important question, because every individual that's out there defending Donald Trump, standing in the way of investigation, anybody that's doing that, all they is saying is the hell with the Constitution, the hell with our democracy, because that's really what they're saying. Because if you are a patriot, if you are at any point concerned about the state of our country, if you're concerned about the state of our democracy, I don't think you would want to stand in the way of investigation, because if Donald Trump did what seems to be the case, he did, which means collaborate with a foreign entity, we as a people should see that Donald Trump pay a price for it, not protect him. Because anyone that doesn't even hesitate to use our country, to use our government for its own gain, and in the process jeopardize our democracy, that individual doesn't deserve your support. Because anybody that does that, it doesn't matter who that person is. Would you jeopardize our democracy for the sake of one individual? Would you trash our Constitution for the sake of one individual? During the 2016, before we even get to the general election, I wrote an article in which I said, and since that time I've used it over and over and over again, I said the following, that Donald Trump is not worth the sacrifice of our nation. I said it before it even happened, before you have millions of people who could not really see clearly and voted for Donald Trump. No, Donald Trump is not worth the sacrifice of our nation. We had so much blood shed for this nation, and that continue to be, because we continue to send our soldiers to other countries so that our countries can be protected here. We send them out, they lost their life, they shed blood in order to protect our democracy, in order to protect our freedom, and yet millions of people who pretend to be patriots, The same people who pretend that they are patriots, those are the same people who actually just trash the blood of our soldiers who died overseas protecting this country by simply handing it to an individual who couldn't care less about our nation. Yes, Donald Trump, as it stands today, doesn't care an iota about the United States of America. I've been saying that for the longest. A few days ago, we heard from someone who was with Donald Trump day in, day out for a decade, and he said exactly the same thing. Donald Trump doesn't care an iota about the United States of America. It is time that we, the people, now it pains me that we have a congressman. Jim Jordan is not alone. I use him because he just made that statement. Jim Jordan is not alone, but to have congressmen making that kind of statement, that should send chill to your spine, because the whole point of the legislative branch is to make certain when the executive branch run amok like Donald Trump is doing today, then the legislative branch can rein in and say, well, we have a democracy we have to protect. We have a constitution that we have to honor. And as it stands today, this is not being done. And the Republicans, although they no longer in control of Congress, they continue to try to undermine the integrity of our nation. Now, if you are a Republican, you cannot see that. I can tell you there is really very little hope for you. There is really very little hope for the future generation that you put on this planet, because it's you at this point, this generation, that ought to do things, that ought to make decisions, that ought to take action that help to protect, to preserve what we have for future generation. And if you cannot get to that point to help protect future, to help protect our democracy for the future generation, then you are, sorry to say, useless to your children. You are useless to your grandchildren, because your action is actually doing just the opposite of what you would like to see for your children or your grandchildren. In 1996, a small network by the name of Fox News was launched with just 17 million viewers. Today, with over 100 million people watching regularly, Fox has become the greatest threat to our democracy, constantly bombarding the airwaves with false information, distortion of facts, and outright lies presented to its audience as news. Fox has created an army of blissful ignorance. According to a survey, 82% of Fox viewers are ignorant of facts and the truth. To keep millions of people in ignorance not only prevents democracy from flourishing, but it also clears the path to authoritarianism, to dictatorship. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Let me finish by saying that democracy cannot survive in an environment where truth and facts do not matter. At Fox, truth and facts do not matter. Indeed, democracy in America is in jeopardy. It is a crisis the country can no longer ignore. Fox in general represent one of the greatest danger for our country. And the reason for that is, number one, they mislead people by calling it Fox News. Now, I don't know too many people in the United States who doesn't know that Fox is not a news organization. Yes, it so happened to have the word news in it, but Fox is a propaganda machine. Now, I hope that there is some way at some point to force the issue for organizations such as Fox not to be able to use expression like this, so that it can be clear to anyone that it is a broadcasting network, it is entertainment, but it is not news. And the reason it is a danger, John F. Kennedy said that the ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of us all. Now, if you tune into Fox, you spend 5 minutes there, you won't have any problem realizing that you're not watching a news organization. Yes, every now and then they peppered with us whatever is going on, like the hurricane, the storm that happened in Alabama. But when it comes to, those are temporary things that happen, something that just happened, they just put it there. But the day-to-day activities of what impacts our lives here in the United States, that's the last place to go to for understanding of what's going on. And as such, Fox represent a grave danger for the nation. How does that fit in war on blacks? Hello everyone. Welcome to War on Blacks. It is a topic in which we discuss race relation in America. Now, if you have not, this is your first time, I again strongly suggest that you take a look at this People Branch YouTube channel. On that channel, you will be able to use those steps on the screen, and when you get to People Branch, you can search for race relation, institutionalized racism, as well as war on blacks. Those are the three labels that we use to discuss race relation in America. And you will find that we already have really dozens of videos that are on the website. Now, the reason that we have we're discussing this race relation here on the Fourth Branch program is because, as you know, racism is a problem in the country. Racism, discrimination. Now, if you watch any of those videos, and when you do, you'll find out that we almost in every time that we had this program, we made certain that we mentioned that there are two groups in this country. There are millions of whites who discriminate and who are racist, and there are millions of others who do not discriminate and who are not racist. And that's what makes the discussion of race relation such a difficult issue to wrap our brain around, such a difficult issue, such a difficult problem to get rid of. We went as far back as slavery in order to understand the dynamic, in order to understand why we are where we are in terms of race relation. Now, there is no doubt that there is the problem is not on the fringe. It's not just somewhere that you'll find the problem. It's across the board. No matter where you are in the United States of America, if you are black in particular, you will be coping with that problem. There is no if and but about it. You will be coping with racism in America. Now, we left off yesterday talking about what happened beyond slavery. Remember, we had dozens of tape which talks about slavery time. We talks about what the slave, how often the slave were trying to escape slavery. We talk about the people, white people, who were working, strategizing in order to put an end to slavery. We also talk about the Civil War, which was the last fight to finally put an end to that practice, to that disgusting practice. And beyond slavery, we ask ourselves the question, what happened? And the reason that we will keep asking that question, and we will continue to talk about what happened beyond slavery and come to the present time to show you what's going on, is because the answer that we're looking for actually is exactly at that point in time. Meaning, after the Civil War was won by the Union, after Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Act, and officially blacks were freed. But what happened after that? Because if we take a look at today, I'm going to give you an example of something that happened 100 years later. Now, what this is 1960s. During the 1960s, you have blacks that were on the street protesting against police brutality, against inequality, against injustice. Blacks were protesting. That's 1960s. Now, it is 2014. 2014, blacks again protesting on the street, and what you're looking at is not a Photoshop. It's something that happened right after the Michael Brown execution by a police officer, and there are plenty of blacks on the street protesting. What you're currently looking at is a black guy who doesn't have a weapon, but you have 4 police officers armed with machine gun. Now you're currently looking at 3 on the screen, but if you look at the bottom of your screen on the far right, you will notice a foot, the boot of a foot. That's another police officer that's there that's also has a machine gun. Now the question is, what happened beyond the Civil War? What happened after the Emancipation Act was passed? Why are we talking about these things still, this predicament blacks in? So the conversation I had with people that seem to be upset, both black and white, by the way, for different reasons. Whites are upset because they feel that they have to be on the defensive every time we talk about this issue, the racism. We talk about war on blacks. Whites are on the defensive. Which war on black? Blacks, on the other hand, not all of them, some are silent, others are vocal because they think the conversation is actually detrimental to the if someone is looking for progress. That's blacks' view on what this program is doing. Now, every time someone says something, I always take it under advisement, because it is important to understand each and every individual point of view, because otherwise we will never be able to advance to get to at least a good outcome, right? Because if you have someone who says that, well, they think this is counterproductive, the person has a point of view, right? Whites, of course, we can ignore it for a moment because they're upset because of the fact that every time that we talk about this problem, they feel that they have to be on the defensive because of what happened in the past. Now, some of those individuals, people who are usually on the defensive, interestingly enough, we'll talk about that when we talk about whites, but for now, let's take let's address the point of view that blacks have about this program, why they think that this program is counterproductive. You need to hear it, because as I say, that I don't have the answer to every question. And if someone gives a point of view, I cannot just simply ignore it and say, hey, the hell with you, then I'll continue with the program. If I ought to change it, if I ought to make some modification, I will. But we'll take a look at what blacks who think this program is counterproductive, what do they think, why do they think so. We'll be right back. Hi, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program. War on Blacks is a topic added to the Fourth Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relation in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discrimination, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we as a society be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you. Is what blacks who express their views about why war on blacks is counterproductive. Now, it is not a new, it is nothing new as far as the view of those, at least the few that have expressed their opinion about the program, who mentioned that when the conversation about war on blacks or any conversation about race relation arises in any environment, what it does is it usually make whites uncomfortable and less open to talk to blacks, meaning that there is a psychological behavior that blacks think that the more that whites hear about this program, the more that they will move away from trying to work out something in order to improve race relation. If you think that's true, I would like to hear from you, not just from those few that I heard that expressed this type of opinion. Now, if you think that's the case as well, definitely send me a tweet, send me an email, let me know that you also think that. Blacks, not white, because again, whites have this aspect that we will discuss another time. But for now, if you are a black individual and you think or you believe or you have a view that this program is counterproductive to what obviously that I'm trying to do, let me know. Don't just tell me yes, it's counterproductive, because that means absolutely nothing. Let me know. Tell me why you think so. This way I can weigh maybe if there is a need to change. Now, we created that program because we believed that since 1865, blacks are no longer slaves, right? Blacks are no longer slaves. Now, 1965 made it 100 years since that day started, since blacks have had freedom. Now, 65 to present, this is what, 2019? What is it, 24 years? No, 50 some odd years, 54, maybe 54, 44. So we close to a century and a half since blacks were free. But a number of events, a number of actions, if you look at things the way that they are today, I gave you at the earlier, show you a picture of a black girl that was arrested because she was protesting, 1960s. That just 100 years after blacks were freed. Protesting against injustice, against inequality, against police brutality, 100 years later. And I also show you a picture of 2014 where blacks again were on the street protesting police brutality, protesting against injustice, against inequality. Just a few days ago, there were two major articles that were written. One, I think, came out of California, where the police officer who killed an unarmed black man was freed because, hey, they thought the cell phone he had was a weapon, so they shot him. Hey, no big deal. And there was also another one, I believe, I cannot recall exactly where, but it also happened around the same time, but that was in a different state. Also another unarmed black man. The predicament have not changed. Now, a lot of blacks, we just celebrated February as Black Month. A lot of blacks celebrate progress. Me, I am an oddball, and I keep saying that I don't see the progress. Which progress are we talking about? Blacks are no longer slaves? That's the progress? Now, if you try to compare a period with another period, you would be right. There is progress. If you try to compare a period with another period, there will always be progress. Child was crawling, baby, toddler, give it a few months, try to walk, progress. But now if you fast forward to future, let's say 5, 6 years old, now the child is running around. Now you can call it from crawling to running. You call it progress. And indeed, it's a development, it's progress. But if you take it within its context, take context, not era versus era, because each period has to be analyzed, at least the interaction, the whatever we're talking about has to be analyzed within that period. For instance, I'll give you a good example. During slavery, a progress for blacks would have been, for instance, something to the effect that someone who work in the field day in, day out, the sun, the heat, the scorching sun, the cold, and so on, and then that individual is moved from that job and work at the master's in the master's house inside. Now, within the context of slavery, that would be considered progress. But you cannot take slavery time and try to compare to today's time and say there is progress. Now, if we want to compare, if you like to use that kind of approach, I'll oblige. During slavery time, the white slave owners could easily kill, beat, kill blacks, and there was nobody to report to, and there was nothing that would happen to the white slave owners. The only thing we're seeing today is a transfer from the white slave owners to the white police officers. I just gave you 2 examples of white police officers, just 2 examples, but there are plenty, and that's the state of affairs. Every time a police officer kills a black man, now because we had something that, well, justice, we're going to court, we're going to ask for justice. 1 year goes by. What California just did is exactly what you should expect. A black is killed. Now, white slave owners didn't have to think about it beyond killing the black slave. Today, they have a cooling period. The black is killed, and then they let a year go by, and then the next piece of news you're going to hear, we cannot charge a police officer, he was afraid for his life. Where is the progress? Which progress are we talking about? Right after end of slavery, sign everywhere, no Negroes allowed. Today we don't see any sign. You can say progress. You fill out an application, you never hear from the place. Not because you're not qualified. In fact, you may even be better qualified than the individual they call, which is a white individual. No Negroes allowed, that was the sign you could clearly see. Then, today you don't see the sign, but does it matter? Which progress are we referring to? You see, not talking about something doesn't do anything, because for 150 years, and my suspicion is it's probably what's been going on. Blacks go on the street and protest when something major, something bad happens, and then they go back to their cocoon and nobody hears anything until the next tragedy happens. And for 150 years, we've been doing that. Don't you think it's time that we use a different approach? Hi, I am MD, host of the Fourth Branch program. War on Blacks is a topic added to the Fourth Branch programming in order to discuss the intricacies, the complexities of race relation in America. The goal is threefold. 1. To bring attention to the various forms of prejudice, discrimination, and racism in the country. 2. To expose the undeniable presence of such in every aspect of life and every corner of our society. 3. To extricate us all from the ignorance, the indifference, or the complicity. The ultimate objective is to make the discussions of those issues, racism, prejudice, discrimination, a normal part of our lives. Then, and only then, will we as a society be able to eradicate the problem. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "Nothing in all the world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." Abraham Joshua Heschel exclaimed, "Racism is man's gravest threat to man, the maximum of hatred for the minimum of reason." Join me in the journey to restore equality. Or would you please get out of the way? Thank you. I do thank you for spending the time with me. I do apologize that I did not have the opportunity to discuss wealth redistribution. Tomorrow we will try to begin the conversation and show you exactly where we're heading in terms of a nation in regards to that topic. I hope you enjoy the program, or at the very least you get something out of it. Send us your comments, criticism, suggestion, comments, and whatever you have in mind. Should you have a topic you would like us to talk about, let us know. We will research it and we will discuss it right here on the Fourth Branch program. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or evening, whichever it happened to be. Once again, reach out and let us know what you're thinking. My name is Mike Duchesne, and that was the Fourth Branch program. Good day. The Fourth Branch podcast is brought to you in collaboration with the People Branch publication, which can be found on the People Branch website located at peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org. That's peoplebranch.org website, in which you will find a number of very interesting articles. My name is Mike Duchesne, MD for short. I hope you have a great afternoon or a great evening, whichever it happens to be. Hopefully you can join me again next time for another interesting episode of this podcast. That was the Fourth Branch, live from New York. Good day.
What if hip-hop never existed? Do you think there'd be as many heads screaming out, stop snitching? What if Adam and Eve ain't eat the fruit? You think we'd be able to see the truth? Or what if Albert Einstein ain't think of the nuke? Or Smith & Wesson ain't teach us to shoot? You think there'd be as many plays out there if there was no boost? Matter of fact, what if white man hung off a noose? Would it still be cool to say nigga? Or maybe we would make six figures? Or would we wanna be crackers? And all the whites would be rappers? What if Martin Luther King survived? You think the New Orleans flood would've caused him to drop and die? I wonder what if and see what is. Stand back from the picture and ask yourself why. What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? If Christopher Wallace never got murked, how much money would Sean Carter be worth? What if Tupac never got hit with the flame? Would the game still have changed, filled with these lames? What if Jabari wasn't speeding down the street? What if the bullet Malcolm sent never hit Zeke? A black guy dropped off at the house instead of a stop? Or Ali never got bopped by the cops? What if the little homie EZ didn't die? Stand back from the picture and ask yourself why. What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? What if life wasn't all you thought? What if everything you knew was gone? What if we switched to rights and wrongs? You think you'd change your route to the road we on? What if?